This is Dave at Active Intel Investigations. We're going to go through 10 different types of assets that can be searched to find value for you to recover a judgment or a fraud recovery for a debtor. The first one is hidden bank accounts. That's one where we can search bank accounts by social security number, by tax ID number, and if you don't have those identifiers, we can search that for you. Number two is real estate held in an LLC. In many cases, a debtor is going to try to hide assets by putting a real estate title or vesting of property underneath an LLC, and that's something that is very common. Corporate assets, in many cases, are a good shield to try to hide assets from creditors, and those corporate assets can be really, in effect, personal assets that are held underneath a corporation to try to shield it and conceal it from creditors. Withholding earnings is a relatively new process where if a debtor has money coming to them from their vendors, maybe from an employer, maybe from commissions, they can have whoever their payor is withhold their earnings so the money doesn't show up into their vesting or their titling until they can find a place to conceal it. Also, trusts are something that are used to conceal assets, and if the trust is created for a fraudulent purpose, that can be pierced and you can get good legal advice from your attorney on how and when that might be appropriate. Receivables are an asset for your debtor. So if they're owed money for invoices, maybe they've done service work and they have that receivable, in many cases you can appeal to the court through your attorney to have you be declared the receiver of that payment in the future. Life insurance policies in many cases are also considered an asset, especially if they're prepaid and your debtor is trying to hide money by paying in advance for a life insurance policy that they can then draw from later. That's a way of concealing assets. A de facto trustee is basically just when somebody puts something in somebody else's name, whether it be an aircraft, a vessel, real estate, or a car, and even though it's in somebody else's name, maybe their cousin, maybe a family member, business partner, it's really under their care and control. And if that's the case, your attorney can look to have that be declared a de facto trust to get back. Another common scenario for hiding assets is cash. You're not going to be able to hide a lot of money in cash, but if that is being used as a vehicle to conceal assets, there's ways that that can be discovered very easily and to declare that as being a fraudulent conveyance into cash. Something that doesn't happen too often, but when it does, is usually a very high amount, is assets hiding in plain sight in the form of antiques. We've seen houses where the debtor has said, all I have is my old furniture, and it turns out that house full of antiques is worth $200,000 or $300,000 in value because they're high value antiques, from Sotheby's or some other auction. So there's many different forms assets can take, and if you're trying to discover assets, make sure that your investigator is looking at all of the different asset classes, especially ones which are commonly used by people that are trying to hide assets from you, a creditor who's trying to collect on your judgment.